I'm gonna pass it off to Shelly to kick us off, but maybe first I'll do a thank you guys so much for coming and coming early and having food and also just spending the evening. I know it's a lot of precious time out of your days to be volunteering for this committee, so super appreciative of that. Hello to those on the screen. We have someone managing tech behind me, so hopefully if you have your hand raised or anything comes up, she'll be able to see it on her end. So with that, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
So our agenda.
So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We'll just quickly go through what's going to be on the agenda and the materials that we're going to be working with tonight. So first, we're going to just go over some quick project updates as far as other engagement we've been doing, some of these background reports that our consultant teams have been putting together, and some process and schedule topics. Next, we'll go through some kind of high-level insights that we gathered from those background reports and get any comments or questions that you guys might have about those. And then the majority of our meeting tonight is going to be doing what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's pretty high-level thinking, and we're really interested in your local knowledge as citizens of Sandy, as well as your technical knowledge coming from whatever profession you're in. Anais is going to give a little bit of direction, a little bit of instruction on kind of what kind of questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's going to be a little hands-on. It's not going to be sitting at this table and listening to people talk. And then finally, we're going to just talk about our next steps, some community events we have coming up that if you'd be interested in helping out on, and we hope to be out of here at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Great. Project update. So I think I'm just going to keep, Shelly, I think it's still you. You give us an update on what we've done since we last saw you guys.
Yeah, so we sent out that postcard to every mailbox in the city, including mailboxes around the city. We wanted to make sure that we reached people that are in the urban growth boundary, since there's a possibility that they could be part of the city over the course of the comprehensive plan. So we sent that out. We have been keeping track of the engagement on our Sandy Speaks website, seeing who's coming to the website, who's signing up, who's taking the survey. If you could keep, posting the survey, I don't know, on your Facebook or just places where you interact with your neighbors, your community members, your friends in the community, that would be really great. So that's where we are with outreach engagement. We've also had a lot of really good engagement with Sandy's Latino community, with our consulting team from Veritas, doing some really good work with them. We have a survey that they translated into Spanish that we've been disseminating among those folks and doing a lot of in-person engagement as well. So it's really exciting. And then I also just wanted to briefly run through these background reports. So this is in tab number 4 in your notebooks, if you grab the notebook on the way in. And do you want me to?
Oh no, are we done with outreach and engagement?
Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Just quickly, sorry, let me go. Sorry, first slide. Yeah. So I know when we last left you guys, we had discussed community conversations and we had given out those community conversation kits. And just to let you all know, we scheduled about 10 of them, primarily with committees and organizations in Sandy. We, myself and Shelly and a couple of us are essentially going and hosting the discussion with these groups that they all have, monthly or bi-monthly regularly scheduled meetings that we essentially ask to be on our agenda. So those are coming up. If any of you have any interest in joining one and maybe helping out by taking notes or listening in on one, you're more than welcome to. We have a sign-up sheet here if you guys want to take a look at what we have scheduled. They're a combination of in-person and also virtual. So I think that's on the schedule. And then in addition, we have a bunch of upcoming community events that we're essentially going to have a booth And it's, at this point, it's primarily the farmer's market. So we're gonna have a booth at the farmer's market. And really the purpose of having the booth here is primarily to just be like, hey, there's this project going on, like engage with us around these topics or these questions that we're asking through these community conversations. It's why do you love living here and what do you want to see in the future? So really trying to continue gathering information about that with just having visibility at events like the farmer's market, the Sandy Mountain Festival, things like that. So that's another sign up. So if you guys want to come and help man a booth at the farmer's market for a couple hours or talk to folks or, just kind of be a face and a champion for this project, that would be such a huge help. Just attend or helping man one of those booths would be really, really great. We have lots of things, but we have swag and pins and stickers to hand out. So it's pretty low stress. There's not much, to do other than just providing some information about the project and just letting people know about it. So that's happening. And then the next slide. We also just wanted to mention that Shelley and I next week are going to do a ton of engagement with high school students at Sandy High School. We're going to go to a leadership class, and we're also going to go to a senior advisory class, and we're going to host community conversations with them. And we're kind of hoping that this is going to be an opportunity for us to just describe the project, describe a little bit about what we do, what is civic engagement, community affairs, and public involvement and planning, and then also run through basically a focus group with these kids. So we're really looking forward to that. Yes. We would love that.
What do you do between 10:18 and 11:41? Okay, not important.
Well, it'll be during your advisory.
So you have to write part of this, but let's do. Okay, let's get that down to the meeting because it would be great for you to come and at least take notes.
Yes.
Maybe in the first one.
That's
Let's touch on that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're really excited about that. So we're looking forward to reporting back to you guys when we meet next in July about all of that. And once again, just the focus of why we're talking about all this outreach and engagement is like this is the time to try to speak to all the people that we're connected to basically try and develop some sort of shared knowledge and also language around how we want to write our vision statement for the future. So you'll see when we come back to you in July, we'll have compile all the feedback, coded some of the key themes, and then we're going to kind of leave it to you guys to help us craft the narrative for that vision statement. So that's what we're doing. Lots going on. There's been a ton going on behind the scenes. And yeah, so that's, I think, community engagement. I can just, do you want me to continue with the process? Yeah. So, in addition to that, as you saw, you have some pretty hefty packet materials. I don't expect all of you to have read things super. Yes. Super
got it right here.
But we did just want to provide them to you for context because I think it actually provides a lot of really great information. The background reports. Yeah. Do you have
an extra one?
Yes. Yes.
We have plenty of extra ones.
Yeah. So they were emailed out to you last week. So the purpose of the background reports is to just try and compile and synthesize information we have about these broad variety of topics that city governments have some sort of influence on in some capacity. We organized them by kind of major topic areas. Usually we write background reports that kind of link directly to these statewide planning goals, which are essentially the framework for these comprehensive plans. But here we're trying to just group them more thematically. So you'll see in the background reports and the presentation just exactly what goal they cover. But essentially we have some data and trends on housing, economy, our natural hazards, parks, trails, natural resources, community and culture, which I will say that one's a little fuzzier. It's not as land use based, but still super important to be talking about the things that the tangible physical aspects of community that lend to culture. And then transportation and infrastructure, and then governance and growth management. So yeah, you may have read through some of these and be like, oh, this is kind of odd that this is part of this background report or something like that, but it's kind of our attempt to make sure that everything that's required for the statewide planning goals is covered in those background reports. So, and then, essentially everything that is in those reports, we're gonna probably use a lot of that content or some of that narrative in those reports as like the introduction to the goals and policies that we're developing for the comp plan. So it serves kind of a purpose of developing a kind of baseline knowledge and understanding of certain topics, but then also helps create the actual comp plan document. Okay, and so in terms of this, our process, how this all links together, I shared this last time, but I kind of like this flow chart. But essentially I see this whole process in 3 parts. So the first is we've got these background reports that help us understand where are we now. At the same time as we've developed those, we're also going out and asking where do we want to go? So kind of combining the data with the qualitative understanding of what people want to see in the future. Together, those 2 things lend to goals and policies. So how do we get there? We have this vision, we have these facts and these trends and forecasts. How do we get to where we want to go? So that's the goals and policies. And that essentially lends itself to the comprehensive plan, which includes all of those elements. So it's kind of a compilation of all of that work. So we are still in phase 1. Any questions about the process or the outreach or engagement? Any reflections, thoughts? Okay. And then finally, project schedule. I'm sorry, once again, this is kind of small. And I think it's actually kind of off by about a month or 2. Oh, it looks like we have someone who raised their hand. Kathleen.
Should I do the?
Yes,
yeah?
please.
One of our city councilors.
Go ahead, Kathleen, you're muted.
I think you, oh, we cannot.
Oh, dear. That's a shame. Are they able to submit a question to the chat? Yeah, I think it's on, how about, apologies, guys.
I heard a sound, she started talking.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we
Hello?
can. Sorry for the technical glitch.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Mm,
Are you muted?
You have to talk over there.
Kathleen, can you hear us?
She's muted.
Oh,
And then,
Can you hear us now, Kathleen?
I think she's muted or she's muted herself. Yeah. Click ask to unmute.
Click
You can
ask.
scroll over.
Yeah.
To
ask to
the
unmute.
left. There you go.
Sorry, guys, this is the hybrid format is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Hello?
Shoot.
Can you hear us? Does that mean no one can hear us?
I'm guessing.
No, maybe that's what she's trying to tell us.
Yeah, that's not good.
Do you speak?
It says that we have sound.
Yeah, can we audio settings,
Yeah,
the audio settings, and then let's test.
Yeah.
it's showing that we're talking.
That's microphone, what about speaker?
turn off the gain, the volume.
Yeah.
That's not allowing.
I think you've got to unclick automatically and just make.
There you go. It's a team effort.
How about now?
Can you hear me?
How about now? We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Hey, look at that, we got it.
You can also.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question on when you talked about the things that you have, where we are now, where do we want to go? Does that include like an idea of, how many I don't know what the units is, if it's acres or units developed or whatever, but kind of the ultimate outcome of this comp plan is how many is, areas zoned for high density, medium density, low density, single family residential, commercial, that kind of stuff. And is that part of where are we now and where do we want to go? Step in that you're just identifying here is part of that process kind of identifying, how much acres and development we have in those different categories?
Great question, Kathleen. And I will say that usually those questions are answered through more technical processes like a housing needs analysis and economic opportunities analysis. That's where you find things like a buildable lands inventory that kind of digs into what that land deficit or land surplus may or may not exist within urban growth boundaries, pending forecasts in population and development trends. That is not part of this process. So usually what will happen is after the comprehensive plan, that then dictates updates to development code and zoning based on support of technical documents. So you have an urbanization report that was updated in 2015 that has those numbers, and that definitely led to some changes in the urban growth boundary as a result. And you also have an economic opportunities analysis, which is a key technical document that will inform some of that, but it won't inform necessarily the whole picture. So we are relying still on the urbanization study as well as the new economic opportunities analysis to essentially inform that discussion through the comp plan.
Thank you. I think I understand. So the zoning map is not part of one of your products?
No, it's the comprehensive plan. Yeah, the zoning map would be essentially an implementation of the comp plan, and that would be afterwards.
But the comp plan, I mean, it's also called a comp plan map that has different colors on it, you know?
Yeah.
Will you have one of those?
That we need to talk with staff about exactly what that end process is going to look like. But right now it's the comp plan document.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, back to project schedule. This is, I'm sorry, it's so small, but essentially we are planning to have a draft vision as well as our first open house with the community likely in early fall. So we're going to be meeting with you again in July and then once again in September. And those two meetings are going to be where we're going to be focusing on developing that vision statement. And then we're going to have an open house likely sometime in September to essentially kind of share that vision statement and start identifying some priorities. So hopefully that schedule is a little bit helpful. I know it's also on the project website as well. Okay, so background reports, key takeaways. I will kind of run through these quickly. If there's a lot of information in those background reports, I tried pulling out some of the highlights, open to taking a couple of questions, you know, to the extent that we can answer them. So I'll start with housing and economy. That links to goal 9, economic development, and goal 10, housing. Clearly from this report, we understand and we know that Sandy is growing. I think we are expected to add just over 7,000, maybe nearly 8,000 people by, 2045? So significant number of people. We know that Sandy's median household income has risen quite a bit in the last 10 years or so. It's currently at just about $73,000 per year. That does not mean to say that we still have about 30% of the Sandy population that is cost burden, which means that they spend more than 30% of their income on everything from rent, mortgage, utilities, etc. That's kind of what cost burden means. Top employment sectors in Sandy include retail trade, accommodation and food services, government and healthcare education. And employment, similar to median household income, did increase by about 20% in the last 11 years or so. Natural hazards and resiliency, really here we're interested in kind of what the trends are around precipitation, around drought, around especially wildfire. So I think that extreme wildfire danger averaged about 11 days per year across Clackamas County in like the 1990s. And it is expected to increase to 19 days per year by about 2050. And we also know that drought events generally have become more frequent and more extreme in Sandy. And this of course has a lot of implications for our built environment and the livability of our community. Next was parks, trails, natural resources. So the city of Sandy just recently adopted their brand new Parks and Trails Master Plan. Those are the kinds of plans that include a lot of really detailed information about all things parks and trails in Sandy. So the city, we know, works with a ton of organizations and partners to assist in funding and maintaining a lot of parks and trails. We also recognize from that master plan that a lot of Sandy's facilities are aging. And then one of the key findings from that master plan was that, you know, as growth continues in the community, the geographic distribution of new parks and trails definitely need to be more equitable across the city. So they don't all get concentrated in one place. So that was one of the key findings from that master plan. Community and culture. So this really relates to goal 1, citizen involvement. Just kind of taking a look at what are the processes that the city takes to get information out and engage the public. So there's a lot of public involvement activities that the city does for land use processes, from development applications to land use hearings and things like that. There's a lot of volunteer activities that are some, organized by the city, but a lot primarily through partner organizations and nonprofits. The city owns a number of buildings, civic arts and cultural spaces, Sandy Senior Center and Community Center, the public library, for example. Those are all buildings that are funded and maintained by the city. And then one of the things, we did want to mention, and hence the focus of that in our outreach, is really youth engagement, and understanding that a lot of kind of harnessing engagement of the youth is really going to mean being or expanding the technical capacity of the department itself and engaging in that way as well. The next one, transportation and infrastructure. So lots going on here: water, sewer, stormwater, transportation, etc. We do know that during most of the year, about half of the city's supply is purchased from the Portland Water Bureau. The remainder of the supply during the summer comes from Brownell Springs and Alder Creek. It's kind of a cool fact from water management. In terms of transportation, we know that there's a number of pretty significant sidewalk gaps throughout the city. That's been identified in what we call a transportation system plan, which is another technical kind of document or master plan that identifies deficiencies and opportunities in your transportation network. So something to keep in mind in terms of thinking about connectivity and walkability of the community. And then the city also has a pretty brand new transit master plan that has a lot of really interesting information about just public transit in Sandy and around Sandy, and kind of what opportunities and key priorities they have for the future. And one of their key findings was that Sandy has some actually pretty productive transit, but having more active land uses or groupings of development really help make that kind of transit a lot more feasible. And then finally, governance and growth management. So this really talks about just the procedures for land use planning. This is the wonky stuff. And then also Goal 14, urbanization. So this deals with managing the urban growth boundaries. So managing land so that it adequately reflects kind of the demand for land, for whether it be housing or employment, etc. We do know that, so the city has this urbanization study that I was just telling Kathleen kind of had those numbers that essentially identified, based on population projections and based on demand for housing or certain types of jobs, this kind of land is going to be needed over the next 20 years. And then you compare that with, well, how much land do we have that's like actually developable for those uses within our city limits. And so that urbanization study essentially delves into that like, what is the balance between what we need, and do we have a deficit or a surplus of land to meet those needs. But generally speaking, we do know that all of our population and employment forecasts do have really strong implications for the type and the amount of land that Sandy will need in order to accommodate for housing and jobs. That's a lot of technical work that is really important for managing that urban growth boundary and making sure that we're growing in the right way. Okay, that was a lot. It is 7 o'clock and I didn't want to move into the SWOT analysis since we're a little behind schedule, but I will pause and just, did anybody have any questions or reflections or anything that they wanted to bring to light or chat about? Yeah, okay. There was a lot of content. It's there for your perusal. Hopefully it was informative in some capacity. To let you know, we also have developed a little infographic, like a 2-page infographic that like distills some of those key facts that I just ran through in some kind of visual element. And so we're hoping to print those out and hand those out at like the booth at the farmers market and things like that. Because it's kind of fun to just understand some key facts about the city. And that helps orient people when you start talking or thinking about what you like and what you want to see in the future. So, yeah. Okay. SWOT analysis. So I realized, originally I'll walk through just what it is, but has anybody done a SWOT analysis? Yeah. No, yeah, some, okay. So some of us kind of know what it is. It's pretty simple, but it is kind of an exercise where we just get to kind of throw spaghetti at the wall, which is what I like to call it. And I did just give you a little handout that I think might be kind of useful for describing it further. Like, what is a SWOT analysis and why do we do SWOT analyses? But as you see, it does stand for strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of brainstorm as a group, thinking about the community of Sandy, thinking about where you come from and your expertise, and then also your experience in the community or the experience that other people have in the community. What are some of those key strengths that the city does either particularly well or in a way that like distinguishes Sandy from other communities? So here, I'll just kind of walk through what they mean essentially. So the little handout here says strengths. So think about the advantages that Sandy has over other communities, like maybe access to certain technology or natural resources or certain types of economic sectors. Weaknesses is where we get to kind of think through, life strengths, their inherent features of the community. So focusing on people, resources, systems, and procedures, what could improve, what sort of practices should the city avoid, things like that. Opportunities, their openings or chances for something positive to happen. They usually require an eye to what might happen in the future. And they might arise as developments in the markets, changes in demographics, or access to technology. And then also a great thing about opportunities is, we can also kind of start naming some of the low-hanging fruit. What are some things that are things that we should jump on immediately? So we can be thinking big and small. It's really an opportunity to kind of talk about all the things and then try and categorize them and what's a strength versus what's a weakness, things like that. And then finally, threats. So that's anything that can negatively affect the health, growth, and livability of Sandy. So of course, always vital to anticipate threats and name them. So the way that we are going to do this, and I think I have like a different idea just because we are only 8, but essentially I was thinking, we're 9, thank you. I was thinking that we would each maybe break out into 4 groups and each of us do a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, a threat, and just have 30 minutes or so to just work in smaller groups. We could still do that. It would probably be 2 people per group. And then we can kind of come together at the end and just share what we did. And we might just see some pretty interesting parallels between what some people identify as a strength or a weakness or an opportunity. So it's always kind of fun to break it up and to see what people come up with. Or we could just do it as a big group and I can just write ideas as they come. Do you guys have any preference for how we do that?
I can. Yeah.
We just shout it out. Yeah, okay. We'll do big groups. So I think what I will have to do is I'm gonna move one of the easels over. And then I'll just kind of start writing. We'll start with 1, and then I'll just put the piece of paper up on the board, up on the wall once we're done with that.
I can volunteer to write if you want.
Yeah, do you want to do that? That'd be awesome. I have a bunch of markers. I'll set you up. It's 7:04, and I was thinking like, let's give ourselves about half an hour to just have this discussion. And if we need more time, we can certainly do that. If not, we can just kind of move into next steps and what, you know, what's coming down the pipeline.
Great.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Before I break, does anybody in the online have any questions or comments or anything to say before we move into the breakout rooms, or before we move into the breakout group, which hopefully will be fairly visible to those that are online? Any questions, comments? Okay, I see none. Okay, I'm gonna turn the lights back on. I'm gonna move a flip chart over, and then I'm gonna give you some markers. Awesome. Woo. Now we're awake. Okay. So I might as well start with this.
Oh, that's what, the boxes are, just bought those in there.
What was that?
Those boxes with the.
Yeah, we just bought a ton. They're also sticky, so that once we're done with this, we can rip them off and put them on the.
Camera.
Yeah, are we here? Oh, yeah, don't wanna be in the way. Okay, cool. Markers.
Are we on one side?
Yeah, let's do one at a time. What color should we start with strings?
Well.
Awesome. And so this feels maybe like a little, like,
Red is a threat color.
That's why I think it's
ooh. Renee, maybe we can just turn that around a little so that, right, yes.
I really zoomed in on it.
You did, awesome, cool. Okay, so yeah, let's kind of just start brainstorming Sandy's strengths. This could be what the city does really well, what you think just generally as a community is going really well, what's awesome or amazing about your neighborhood. It can be kind of external factors and internal factors. It's like put it all out there.
I mean, I think tourism and just natural, like, I don't know, geography, like rivers and maybe not parks, but forests and stuff like that.
Like access to natural resources.
Well, and we're right by the mountain.
Right.
So that's always.
Right by the mountain.
I mean, growing up, it was always, you know, we were, a lot of people had, you know, relied on the mountain having a good year so that businesses coming through get traffic.
I think that our utilities is a pretty like moving like different areas when I was in college, it was always a challenge to figure out, but I feel like Sandy does well in that internet. Like Sandy
They have Sandy Net, yeah.
You can't beat Sandy Net. And
I know a lot of good work for them.
When you say utilities, I'm curious, was it like, it was easy for you to figure out what your utilities were, because it was like on the website, and you knew exactly like
Yep.
what you needed to sign up for?
I've also heard from people that we have, like, they're very well priced too.
yeah, I mean comparative, I mean like if you're somebody who lived in Sandy during the like increase in water that was never increased for a long time, then people have like kind of a iffy feeling about it, but I, you know, comparative to where I
Well, it's not like a
was.
surcharge or something, like that was more of a fee.
It's something to do with the
Yeah, the sewer
the sewer system for.
Right.
It was something to deal with, isn't it, something to do with
I'm not
getting
sure.
the sewer up to date or
It's
something.
just
Yeah.
My friend checks, yeah.
I got
It
them
was
checked
like
when ours increased,
$30
and I was
or
like,
$34
is there an
last
increase?
year.
And they're like, we haven't raised the prices
Yeah.
for the charges in like 10 years. And so basically it just caught up with what it should have been, and that's why our infrastructure also has been moving so bad on the like, water and sewer. But yes, through the city page,
Like information.
it's information and
Yeah.
also like being able to be billed for your water and your internet in one bill is like
Amazing.
amazing. And it's just, it feels like equitable access to, you know.
Yeah, do you wanna put like, information and, yeah, like,
Don't get too wild with the information.
Totally, well,
It
yeah.
has a lot to move on.
well, let's put that. missed out on opportunities, yeah, for sure.
The website does seem pretty informative. You guys seem like you work really hard. Keep us informed.
Thank you. I'll tell our website guy. Thanks so much.
I like as a strength the trails around Tickle Creek. I think that's great. For my family, it has been wonderful. We've loved having it implemented.
Yeah. Nice.
I would say our police on style is really great
Is
compared to other areas around.
They slacked there for a year with COVID because
Yeah.
the way it used to be, when you drove to Sandy, you got pulled over, you got 4 cops on it. And then during COVID, nobody got pulled over. I don't think, I've never seen anybody get pulled over. And then now it's starting up again.
But great response time.
Yeah, and even just for non-emergency stuff, like we
Yeah.
had somebody hit our fence in our house, the snowstorm that they had, and an officer came out and like checked on it, where it's like, this is not an emergency thing, and the timely response to it was really great, and it was a lot faster than I expected.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would say first responders, because I think when the fire come out, like, they swear like the entire.
Yeah. Fire department comes out.
I think it's a better red work.
I can switch to.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want, I just feel like I can't read that very well.
Let's throw that away.
Yeah, let's throw that
I'm not sure if this is an investment, but because I am knowing of how hard flower baskets are, because I board in Gresham, the downtown association, I appreciate that Sandy invests in like flower baskets every year.
one. Yeah. Yeah, just like kind of what we like visual interest or nice touch.
I think one of the strengths are, everybody works really hard to keep things clean. The streets are clean, the trails are clean.
I definitely have, like, I go through a neighborhood, I swear once a week, I've never seen
The street
the
cleaner.
street cleaner. Yeah, I was like, again?
Clean streets, nice.
High school.
What's so great about high school?
Brand new.
It's new, it's big, it's got room for expansion, we've got all sorts of things that the community should have that we use.
Yeah. I need to capture that. I need a pool, but it's beautiful.
I mean, they have a working, like, they have a place where TV can be live casted, they have a place where a radio station can be. They have a place for a community store, they've got all sorts of community space stuff that my small brain can't conceive of why we're not using it, why we're not doing.
I know, that's what
Open
kills me.
gyms and.
It's a lot of it, we're not utilizing.
Yeah, I trust.
So it's, of course, I'm biased, so I shouldn't speak, but like it has a good staff. A bit of staff.
Killer staff.
But yeah, so there's a lot going on with that, good kids that,
Yeah.
we complain about them occasionally when they're not in the room. Oops, sorry. But we have a good group of kids.
Don't they have a robotics program? They
Yes,
were-
we just went to Worlds and
Really
they won
won
first
for
place
robotics, yeah.
for like most creative, it was something along that, I don't remember the exact title, but they won first at the World, so.
It's been like one of a kind programs like for years.
Yeah.
There's not very many robotics like in East.
Yeah. That's very cool. Other things that make Sandy kind of unique compared to other communities?
I'd say in general, pretty low crime rate.
Low crime rate, yeah, pretty safe here.
It's something that we need to make sure that we stay up on. There have been some things happening lately that are concerning, but I think
Yeah.
generally, yeah, we have a much lower crime rate than places around.
What about, like, I'm thinking, you know, types of jobs or like employment opportunities here? Are there like certain sectors here that are like really
It's a lot of tourism.
A lot of
I think
tourism.
that's.
Well, I saw on the slide, there was like, there was a lot of like food,
Yeah, retail.
smaller retail,
Yeah.
smaller stuff like that, so I wouldn't say. I mean, I almost guarantee the median wage is what it is because everyone's commuting to work somewhere else. It's not like no one's making 75,000 a year working in town.
Yeah,
I don't know, the dentist office is pretty.
Well, okay, dentist.
Or a lawyer or something.
Right.
there is that cool graphic in what was it, the housing and economy one, and that shows how many people commute out of town and how many people commute into town.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
So yeah, I mean, I would say the jobs that are in town are probably the lower wage earners that are in
Yeah.
our population.
I would say most of our retail is also big box stores. We don't have to.
Let's keep that for like weakness or something else, yeah, but let's keep that. Strengths,
The library is also.
the library, we're in the library.
Like our public spaces.
Although I would put, we don't have a lot of third space, I don't think that, especially for young people, so I would put that because, but this is a great third space.
And the people who work here are awesome.
Yeah.
Staff.
And
So,
I think another strength is like our community is being huge, trying to encourage everybody to buy local. So that's kind of neat.
I'm gonna give you a piece of this.
That's what makes it
That's
nice to
yeah.
live there. 'cause
We want a
it's
weird-
different.
And this is the view.
Our museum is 3
I think
rounds.
for my age,
The museum, cool, yeah, I don't feel like there's like,
I've been here for a while.
for my for 10 years. 10, 15.
I like to go in there.
More than 10.
Yeah, I would say between 10 and 15,
I
I
was
think.
I just
Yeah,
graduated.
It looks like small.
Yeah, we-
okay,
Sorry, that's.
I think our
What was just said, that was.
museum,
No, you
the
were-
museum.
Oh, thank you. I just lost my brain.
The Bigfoot Museum.
Oh, yeah, the Bigfoot Museum in Warren.
I always loved
fish hatchery.
mountain days.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
That was a cool, I mean, I'm really hoping that makes a return this year.
I think it
Of
is.
sorts. Well, I'm just saying, I hope it makes it stronger.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because I always loved, either going to the kindergarten or walking through the mining or whatever. It's just, it makes Sandy come alive. It's nuts for a little bit, but it's fun.
If you ask anybody like from Oregon City, why you go to Sandy for mountain days or
Yeah,
Yellow Mountain or that market during the.
farmer's market.
The farmer's market.
Farmer's
Yeah.
market.
Yeah, it's mountain days.
Yeah.
I would say, community programs like with Ant Farm. They provide
Yes.
Yeah.
great services for you. Kind of
Those
the
partnerships.
only, the only one that's focused on.
And the holidays at the Christmas time with the tree lighting, and you can ride the bus around and look at the Christmas lights. and it's fun.
Trump.
Yeah, the truck.
Yeah, that was the one, 'cause, I see the bus system as a opportunity. I think that they would partnership with the school so we can get kids to school.
Yeah.
But
But the trolley's
The
cute.
trolley.
The trolley's awesome.
And the trolley will picks up residents at care facilities and takes them to a Fred Meyer and
Yeah.
knocks them off and comes back and gets them.
Yeah.
On
That's
a routine
really cool.
basis.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis.
My kid's favorite part of the day.
I take the Sam from Gresham to Sandy, but one day the regular bus is broken down. And so just around the corner at Gresham, at the Gresham Transit Center comes the trolley. And so I just rode the trolley to work and we're just like zooming down Highway 26. It red lines at like 55 miles an hour.
I'm so jealous.
I was here on the app, there's an app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice cream faster, so.
It's cool. Anything more, or should we move on to the other one?
This is a weirdly specific one, but I love the trails behind the high school that connect like the weird pocket area there. It's a good walkability thing.
Goes to the river, right?
Well, there's
The Sandy River Trail, the one is the bike Taco
There's
Bell.
also, yeah, that's what I was.
So connects, so there are connecting trails behind the high school.
They're not.
Yeah, but let's,
I mean,
let's
you know,
go there.
just for walkability, there's people who. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just through the really forested wood of it, high school.
it's behind the
Was that-
soccer, or not soccer field, football field, and then, or right behind Safeway, there's,
Oh, okay.
If you turn
I didn't
over
know that
by
went
the
further than-
B&B, there's a dead end right there.
Yeah.
And you go
And walk down through.
Oh, I didn't know it went further than that little
You know, that
pond down
used
there.
to
You
be,
have to cross the stuff.
There's like, it's like 3 or 4 different trails.
Well,
like
I guess
that.
everybody
Oh,
got up there and they shut it down.
yeah, they just.
All the idiots and just.
Well, there's a class that does it, but they haven't been doing it for a while.
Well,
So they're just, yeah, they're just starting back up, and there's also issues because they've been losing trees, so you don't send the kids out to cut down cottonwoods.
Cool. It's 7:20, maybe let's move to the next one. This is not as fun, but weaknesses.
I think the 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes going out of Sandy, and the amount of people that are using them is a huge issue.
So
We're doing
I'm
weekends.
hearing
So road,
the couplets or
or
no.
road infrastructure, traffic infrastructure.
On the one ways. Specifically.
Well, I mean, I brought this up, I think, last time we had the meeting.
Is traffic can I put that, or do we?
Put traffic.
Traffic.
Yeah, I think traffic too, yeah, that's probably. But so I brought it up last meeting, but when the fires hit, which this is, I have another thing for this, but when the fires hit, we just lived off of 211 back there. And it took me like 30 minutes, 45 minutes to go from 211 to go down 362nd and get to Fred Meyer so that I could get out and take stuff to Gresham.
So road connectivity.
Well, it's not even, I mean, maybe it's connectivity, but it's just the fact that we've got so many people on roads that can't move them.
That's also a very specific event.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but what if the
But
fire, what if
happens-
the fire started in
So
Sandy?
like,
But all I'm saying is
Yeah.
it's still the same roads that have been here since I was 5. With, what was it, 23% higher population, that was since 2000 or 2002 or whatever it was. So I'm worried that the traffic infrastructure, whatever we wanna
Yeah.
call it, is not keeping up with the population that it's serving.
Well, I mean, it's not just that event too, I mean.
Mountain Days,
Like
any
Friday,
weekend, yeah.
Friday afternoon
Right.
and Sundays are ridiculous, like, I
Right.
don't,
So I guess if we wanna talk less catastrophic and more of just a headache, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, just pick up at Cedar Ridge, you can call.
No.
Yeah,
Since
so
like don't drive.
I think,
traffic, yeah.
I think the biggest, by talking to people, the biggest thing was traffic and infrastructure. It's like, how can you build more and not have a way out?
Right.
Yeah.
The secondary roads are something that need to be. Absolutely.
Yeah, no secondary roads maybe.
211, 362nd, coming from the east side, that's been there forever. And that's the only way to go to Estacada and come back up here.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
There is gonna be a new road connecting off of Bell out to 362nd. I saw that on.
Which cuts to the forest that we
Yep.
mentioned earlier.
I know, I know.
But,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Is
there's,
that the one back by the high school?
mhm,
Yeah, I heard about
it's in the plan.
Well, basically,
that. That's on the other side.
It's on the north side.
I think there's more people than.
I would
The south
also
side.
say like small business sector is really lacking.
I will say this, I've seen multiple small businesses try and pop up. And everybody, it's one of those things that just, it's sad, but it cracks me up as people will get on like Neighborhood Watch or community information, they'll talk about, I want a small business and it's locally grown, whatever. And then you go in there and the dried pineapple is like $8 a pound. And you're like, well, I just can't justify buying it, like that's just expensive. So I've seen multiple small businesses buy and start.
But also
Something
starting a
that's
business in Sandy is great.
I-
Okay, so starting a business, just like the maybe the
Upstart?
fees or the upstart,
Well,
yeah.
permits, like building requirements, like signage,
Yeah. All the updated-
That's the opportunity, who's gonna start the business that does, like, is the secretary and paperwork person for all small businesses.
Yeah.
So then all you have to do is be a business. I
I mean, like, that is a big
Phone
struggle
stuff.
that I've faced. Yeah, but definitely, there's a reason why I haven't
Yeah.
my business into safety.
Yeah, you said that in the first meeting. Yeah, so fees and upfront costs.
Fees and upfront costs, and also just there's a lot of vacant buildings that are used as storage that are storefront spaces on our main
I
streets.
noticed that, why is that?
Because the same people own these buildings that have forever. So they're being used instead of for businesses, they're being used as storage or just sitting vacant. So I don't know if that's like a city, something a city can be involved in, or.
Well,
Like, I can business.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely some like private and public
Yeah.
sectors working together there, yeah. Great.
What about housing availability?
Yeah,
It seems like it's
Yeah.
not low.
there's not a lot of choice here.
Well, I was blown away I was told that there were people who are on a waiting list for apartments in Sandy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
For like just to rent?
Yeah, I did not know that was a thing.
yeah,
The lady on the trail said somebody died, so she's in. Like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Not a lot of
competitive
market,
housing.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic for sure.
which is hard because at the same time, we're saying that there's already too many being built to begin with, so
I mean,
anyways.
depends where we wanna go.
Well, and that was something that I was gonna ask, is if we're talking about a weakness, it's like, okay, well, if we're gonna talk about a weakness, then we gotta figure out what it is that we're working towards. You know,
I mean, this is.
so I mean, this is a
Yeah.
different, that's a later conversation, but when we're gonna talk about, you know what I mean, what's hindering us from progressing, like, well, where are we progressing to?
Well, and I would, that makes me think of the new developments, like, I think that their lack of green space and park and connectivity to each other, I think is a lack of planning on our part.
Yeah, so maybe, yeah, how could we
Yeah,
phrase
yeah, lots
that?
of green space, but.
Or just like development, like new development without the amenities that you kind of hope would happen with new developments.
Well, it just seems like most housing developments, like where I live, it's,
Yeah.
they have a park,
They have a part,
apartments, so,
apartments now, yeah.
you know, and so they're like, I just, you know, the longest I've been driving through Sandy forever, I just noticed there's a apartment complex coming up over, what is that road by,
Bicycle Creek?
across from McDonald's?
Reuben.
Yeah.
Off of Reuben.
Like,
Oh, yeah, they're
That's
sneaking it
new.
back
yeah, they
behind,
just like snuck it in there.
behind the dealership,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that will help alleviate the waiting list.
Well, there's one, and there's a big development adjacent to Tickle Creek, and there's also another big development between Cedar Ridge and the high school on
Yeah.
University, but they haven't touched that one in like a year. It's prepped, but nothing's happened.
And they're currently building off behind between 211 and DeMarco,
That's around that,
the
a
Shaley,
new house, a
the
new
new
housing
housings
development
by
back there.
Ponder, yeah. I don't know, it doesn't look like there's a designated park in there. There's 104 houses going in there, but it doesn't look like there's designated
Right.
park.
And I thought that was mandatory.
Yeah.
So
I thought they made a-
I can explain just like very high level a little bit about that.
Okay.
So developers have two options in the state of Oregon. They can either dedicate land for public parks, or they can pay what we call a fee in lieu. So they take that amount of acreage that they would otherwise have to dedicate, they multiply it by a specific figure of money, and then they pay that money to the city. And the idea is that the city banks that money to use to build parks.
And also that.
Or like
same
maintain
development-
Or
existing
maintain
parks, or like
existing-
expand things.
Yeah.
So you might not have like a green space in like a new housing development, but then maybe it lends to like more picnic tables at, you know.
My
at
neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But that's not to say that like you still, you know, in the face of growth and in the face of population and, you know, knowing that like we're gonna have new communities grow up, like how do we want those to look, you know, and what does feel, what do our new neighborhoods need to look like?
And counter that, what does that do to the price of the housing that's If they're having to shoulder an extra cost of this hypothetical land that they would be using to turn into a park. But then they go, okay, well, if we just make everything else more expensive to cover that, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's always give and take, I get it, but that's not helping our housing affordability.
Right.
And also that same development you're talking about, they were supposed to make the exit on Melissa.
It does come up off
So it
Melissa.
does,
Yep.
but then.
I live in the neighborhood next door to it. So it comes, if you come up the hill from Melissa, you can go straight through.
Okay.
And then you just have to, couple little turns and it takes you on to Gunderson and then 211. I use it every day.
But I thought the 211 wasn't
Can I
supposed to.
speak?
Well,
Yeah, sorry, we have an online.
go for it, Karen.
I'll just, having been on the Parks Board for 25 plus years, yes, at the Shaley Meadows development, there is a park there.
Okay.
We just got that was something that they kind of gave us at the last minute. We do have a site parks plan developed for it in the new master plan. And we have plans for, extensions of Tickle Creek. We have a lot of plans for both trails and parks. And just to clarify on when that stuff does get developed, our current code says that they are at the city's discretion, they are required to give us a certain amount of land if, and it's the way it's based on is if there's a planned park in the area. So what we do is we identify those parks, as she was saying, kind of around the community. And the idea is that you have a park within a quarter to half a mile of your house that you can walk to. And so there's in the master plan, there's big circles of, like with half miles and quarter mile circles. And if there's already a park in the area, then we require them to provide a fee money. If there's not land within that area, then we require them to give a certain amount of park land. And so that's kind of how we've gone from 4 parks in 1997 to about 18 or 19 parks now, plus the trails.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the good things that we do have in Sandy is we've got this new master plan is really, I encourage you guys to all look at it because it's got some great, you were talking about community, connectivity to the neighborhoods and all that. Take a look at the trails planned because I think you're going to be really happy. And I think it's going to be a real win-win for everybody.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank
I
you.
have something we kind of talked about how Sandy is very clean. I have noticed at the parks, specifically mining, it's. Yeah, like there are multiple times, I've been, like there have been multiple times where like you find like needles in the park or like things like that, just kind of, I don't know how exactly you word that, but like there's kind of a lack of people picking up parks or like behind the high school trails. Safe, how the traffic connect, we've done a lot of things,
Yeah.
like these kind of spaces.
I guess it's just not on our doorstep.
Yeah.
So, but there could be areas that are feeling super clean, and is a great strength, and then there's definitely probably parts of town that like are not as clean, and that's definitely a weakness, so yeah. This park, these could be, the same thing.
It's a good, but a lot of like the big trails are clean, some of the smaller ones that like especially the youth can go to, I feel
Yeah,
like
that's.
are clean right now.
I wrote down 3, sorry. So, elementary schools, the infrastructure is failing.
Oh, yeah, not being,
Yeah.
that they have class in the
Not
hall,
being-
that's a weakness.
And
It's opportunity.
classes, so schools, like physically them, having historical schools
You're good.
is
Thank you for coming.
fantastic, wonderful, but if they are not maintained, that is an issue which we're facing. Sandy Green is.
Well, Sandy Green was decrepit.
Yeah, Sandy Green, Fernwood has some
What else?
covering issues.
So far.
I'm gonna just point out the pool is sitting vacant.
Yeah.
Well, the
Okay,
pool,
yes,
that's another story.
Yes, and then what was the third? Inaccessible youth engagement.
Accessible youth engagement.
Inaccessible.
Inaccessible,
Yeah.
great.
So-
Cool.
And I didn't say weakness, youth engagement, because we know it's.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
just wanna make sure.
Cool. 7:35, maybe we should move to opportunities. We got 2 more.
You know, if I remember the Cedar Ridge, old Cedar Ridge building, that's just sitting there.
Same thing that.
Yep.
Districts.
Opportunities.
Here, Renee, I can grab this, wanna start?
We say opportunity. Is that like, but that's like explaining something with the meaning of comprehensive.
There are no rules.
There are no rules.
So this is where things start kind of overlapping, but in terms of opportunities, what's kind of happening in town that you're like, oh, like if only we could do this, or there's this like great, what are some kind of synergies that you're noticing?
I would say like a visitor center.
Yeah.
Because we have all these people coming through, but we don't have a visitor centers. I mean, my understanding is, as it stands right now, we also don't have a physical space for the chamber, correct?
I thought the chamber used to be.
Yeah, over there,
Is it not anymore?
they are not over there, because they weren't getting funding, because there's not a whole lot of businesses in town, so they're not
Yeah.
getting funded.
Yeah.
But realistically, like, how are people supposed to start a business here and have the resources
Yeah.
and the, you know, accessibility to all of that?
Is the museum not also a visitor center? I always kind of assumed that that's what that was.
People don't really know about it.
Yeah, I don't think people know about it.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, does it function as a visitor
I'm
center?
not sure.
It has like a visitor center like display thing,
Yeah.
but.
It's
I'm
not
not
sure.
Like the brochures, it has the brochure rack thing.
Yes, but I mean, like, also investment, not really invested in that, so that is a.
Also, what, I'm being honest, what is it? I don't even know what visitor center is.
A visitor center, essentially, like, if you came in like from out of town, that they would be able to say like, oh, okay, well, what are you looking to do? And you could say, well, I really wanna go fishing. So they're gonna tell
So,
you like, oh,
okay.
okay, do this. Or if they say, I wanna go on a wine tour, then you would connect them with a local business that would be doing that.
Gotcha, so it's probably up the alley of, kind of like saying more of a touristy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not expecting
Or
an aggression
also-
visitor center, right? Like,
Do they even have
there's
one for us?
Chipotle.
No,
that's what
but
I'm
it's like a
saying.
visitor center is like, can be manned by a person, like a 9 to 5 or on
Right.
weekends.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, I think especially like as the gateway to Mount Hood, like the amount of
Right.
traffic that you have people recreating, like.
no, like I said, I honestly just
But I
didn't
mean,
know what they did,
Yeah, one of the
so-
other things they do is like relocation packets. So like if you decide you wanna move to wherever, like you basically reach out to them and you would say like, hey, I'm thinking about relocating, I'd like a packet. So that's an opportunity for all of the businesses to put things in about like, this is why you wanna move here and these are things you can look forward to and I mean, that part of it. So that hopefully, like, I mean, that's one of the first stages that like businesses who are gonna hire a bunch of people, that's one of the first things they do is start to see like, what does the city have to offer?
I think there is a relocation packet that the city has, that's on the website, I actually think I stumbled on it.
Really?
But yeah, opportunity, I love relocation packets.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out
What other
what
things?
this, I guess it's kind of more of a weakness. It's kind of hard for organizations to hold event spaces. That's.
So, not a lot of public space
I don't know
or?
exactly, that's kind of more of a weakness. I don't know how you.
The opportunities we can do more.
Yeah. It's like really hard to find a place that doesn't cost hundreds of dollars.
To host an event.
Yeah.
And you're talking,
We recently kind of,
What are you saying, from the senior center
Like a senior
or?
center.
well, more.
Well, no, I'm not challenging you, I'm just
No,
wondering
yeah,
what
like,
what we're
We're,
looking
so
for.
we're, like, Centennial Plaza, like, $200 for it. And that kind of makes it hard for like 17-year-olds to hold
Like
some
parties?
event. No, like, Safe is trying to have a private event in June. And we can't because, like, we're still trying to, but we can't, and same as we did last year. Because it's $200 to rent that on top of all the other costs that we need
yeah,
to hold the actual event.
got it.
So it makes it kind of. an
So yeah,
exception.
access to public space, yeah.
Like some housing developments usually have like a place that you can rent,
So,
or,
yeah.
you know.
What about like a YMCA?
Pool
Like,
That's the
facilities.
vision. I think that was the vision.
There's one in Gresham, right?
What about, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There is.
What about like opportunities? I'm thinking, one of the strengths we had was Sandy Net. Are there like more opportunities around Sandy Net that are like not being fully captured?
More people can have access to Sandy Net. I know a lot of people on the outskirts do not have access.
That's the type of, I mean, not that I know a lot about internet or whatever, but that's also the type of work that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to lay the cables.
Yeah, and so it's like, are you gonna run a cable, 3 miles up out of, what's the street that goes?
Wildcat now, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna run a cable of Wildcat for one person up there that wants to get it, you know what I mean? Like, that's where it gets difficult.
Economies of scale is always an issue.
Right, so unfortunately, I think that might be the drawback of a city-sponsored internet thing, is it's like you kinda gotta be in town for it.
I just threw that out there, but
Yeah,
maybe there's.
but I do think
I-
they have options for like, that's not fiber, but
Yeah.
I do think they have options for that.
The nice part, I mean, like opportunities, more hotspots. All the
Yeah.
schools have hotspots in front of them, which is awesome, but like.
Like Wi-Fi
people-
hotspots.
Yeah, but
Well, I just-
actually sitting in front of a school just seems weird, so maybe like different.
Yeah.
Looking for hotspots.
So I was setting up my Wi-Fi, and I found out that there are a few of those like through town.
Yeah.
That are not in front of the school. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Very, very cool.
Some more Wi-Fi hotspots.
Anything
More
else?
Wi-Fi.
Do we have neighborhood associations? Cause I can't find anything.
They're, pretty much all of them are defunct.
Okay, so I would say neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I mean, when I was growing up, like everybody kind of knew everybody.
Sure.
So, I mean, at least keeping some sort of that sense of community.
I'm gonna throw out like, this is a American culture thing too, but I feel it's a huge opportunity to invest in Main Street, because it doesn't pay to save anymore, and you have to invest in Wall Street, but there's all sorts of ways that you can invest in your own town, like slow capital and all that kind of thing, that is kind of innovative, but you need to be way smarter than me to make it work, but we have a community that's not large enough with a lot of needs that cost money, like the pool, like, but if we did, so I call that, like, I don't call it that, I read books, I read lots of books.
Invest in Main Street.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, your Main Street is, it's still a pretty decent Main Street you guys have, like, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I know it's, traffic is a threat, a weakness, but.
Well, and
That's the bus system, seeing the bus system is an opportunity.
Also,
I would think.
the types of businesses that we have a lot of pipe and tobacco. So like maybe, I don't know, diversify, maybe.
Or some sort of like economic development strategy that kind of sets, kind of tries to understand what the future can hold in terms of,
A lot of the building of the Main Street businesses, the infrastructure is also failing, like they're falling apart,
Yeah.
too, like the Junker building. It's ceiling.
you were saying buses.
Yeah, I mean, I just think encouraging using more buses, like that could be some collaborative effort.
Yeah,
City
we
buys
wanna
a
do
bus
that.
and because the school doesn't do their own busing anyway, they pay an exorbitant fee whether or not kids get to school or not, so I feel like that could be
So like the-
invested in our hometown.
Yeah, or maybe actually just add the partnership between schools and transit.
Yeah.
Great, let's move on to threats. I wanted to make sure we get out of here.
Buy my kids for 3 days.
That's nice.
It's so scary. Beginning of the year, the buses just captured kids. It was like, yeah.
Renee, thank you so much for returning, this is great. You're a
trademark like
Ex- yeah.
I was gonna say, someone's drawing a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Really bad job. Or I'm blocking you out, I'm trying to.
Okay, threats, our last one.
Is it common for city governments to have some kind of disaster preparedness thing? Like, because like I said, my buddy worked at Les Schwab, and now he works for a beverage company, and so he had connections to a bunch of different, like, Fred Meyer and stuff like that. That was all coordinated, not through the city of Sandy.
What was that?
That was the food relief thing that we had going on at Les Schwab, that I was helping out with that, with some stuff, with fire, sorry. I don't remember seeing anything from the city of Sandy anywhere. It was like Sandy's Helping Hands, and I don't think the actions, I don't remember what the action center was doing. I just didn't see anything from city government as far as, this fire displacing a bunch of people, and, what are we gonna do about it?
Yeah,
Or just any kind of disaster, right? I don't know.
natural
Well, Mount Hood
hazards.
is a lot of, volcanoes, so
Let's see, but
it's still.
we're in a
high.
tsunami zone, we're not 205 is it.
Yeah, I think the emergency manager position, fire is part-time.
Oh, really?
They have one, it's part-time.
We should make it full-time.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it would be great.
Well, no, but you gotta plan sometime, like.
And resources.
Well, not just that, I mean, it used to be like you lived anywhere near the mountain, like you knew if you were gonna, it was gonna snow, there's a possibility, you could be out of power for a few hours, or you might like not have this or not have that. I don't know that the people who live here now know those things.
Right.
Like, if they had to turn off their water, do they know how to turn off their water? Like, I don't, there's a lot of people who don't know those things now. So, I mean, I think it is a threat that if, shit did go sideways and our one road, like in and out, something happened to that we could be up the creek. And I don't know that a lot of these people are prepared, like they wouldn't have water on hand.
So I would say, I feel like I heard a couple things, transportation network, back to just access. And then I also heard like just general, disaster prep, like community-wide and individual, disaster prep.
Maybe you could help with the wording of this, but like in situations that we're experiencing drastic weather changes, there's extremely cold nights and there are people who, who are houseless in our community, but also people who just don't have access to heat or their heat's been shut off.
Yeah.
There's 0 warming centers in town, and basically the city was suggesting to get on a bus and go to Oregon City, Gresham, or Gladstone, and with a population of our size, we need to do better.
Yeah, so warming and cooling centers.
We have empty schools,
The thing that I was surprised about was, there's a number of people who only have wood burning stoves up here. And so some of them are like older senior citizens and veterans who run out of firewood. And so, I mean, that's one of the things, like we're delivering firewood, and we ended up getting our list from the Salvation Army. But I mean, I was amazed at how many people that's their only form of heat. So, I mean, I don't know, senior,
Maybe social support systems or social services
Yeah,
for senior
Does the
population.
senior
Social
center
services.
have a list of those kinds of people, or?
we got ours from the Salvation Army,
Did you?
which I mean, I thought that was crazy, because I mean, the Salvation Army's on like, what is that, 81st, 78, something like that, I mean, like, what's supposed to be. Well, it was crazy for me that they were the ones who had all the addresses and stuff for all those people on the mountain. So.
Okay, we just have a couple more minutes left, but I wanna turn it over, but let's.
I wanna be careful how I say it for the threat, like, cause I think it goes along with this, but like, the houselessness issue, I don't mean it as a threat, it's people that aren't home, but like, where do those people go? Where's the support for those people?
I
So
mean-
I don't know what the threat is, it houselessness? I mean, that's
Houses,
what
we
I-
can certainly put that, yeah.
Like not, resources, or, I don't know, like, is there a lack of help for people who don't have homes?
Yeah, that's what I mean by it,
Yeah.
like putting it here in the threat, it was like the threat is that where would you go and have
Yes, or services maybe, or lack of services.
Because it's not always realistic to tell them the restaurant somewhere saying, maybe it's somewhere.
Other threats? If you build it, they will come.
Would the rising crime rate be a threat?
That could be a threat, yeah, certainly.
That's actually, I was gonna say that.
Rising crime rate. Anything else?
Like water and sewer infrastructure.
Yeah, so just the capacity of water, of infrastructure, capacity issues, yeah.
I think a threat is higher taxes. Like how home taxes. I lived here long as cost of living. Well, yeah. My first house in '94 was 800 and some tax, and now it's 3,500, so. They went, and it's about the same size.
Yeah, inflate, yeah.
And it's a small town, I figure a small town, it won't go up that fast, but dang.
So I've been reading also about preparations for drought and stuff.
Yeah.
Our power.
Power grid.
PGE is actually talking about
Rolling
how
back.
will it like, well, shutting off power and they're already preparing for that. Across Portland, and obviously we would definitely be in that zone.
Yeah, so PV, power,
Power
like,
grid.
power grid, shut-offs, yeah.
Is that like during high winds and stuff?
Yeah,
in case of fire.
storms, anything like that.
Yeah,
April.
they'll like preemptively shut off showers so
Power.
that the lines don't cause.
And obviously that sets off.
I'm not sure if it's definitive at this point, but the fire down in Gates was because they didn't shut the power off.
That's PG&E.
It's like the same caused it, but it could have been avoided.
Honestly, during the fire that we had, I was thinking about that because they didn't have a way in and out. They only had one way in and out in Paradise. And that's how, that's what happened. Yep. Everybody died. Oh, yeah, no, it's like that.
More than needed.
More than needed, yes. That was the reason. Got me thinking
Yeah,
on the road. You know, because I was stuck for an
roads, but
hour.
it's also interesting to think about Paradise and the topography in that area and how that, the natural landscape also restricts the development of roads, and so there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
I mean, the Cicada fire moved 11 miles in like 2 hours.
Oh, I think Shelby had her hand up, or did she?
No,
Okay, sorry.
but maybe, like you're saying, maybe that's a bit of foresight that needs to be there. If the geography is limiting, such and such exit strategy, then it's like, okay, how much are we allowed to grow then? You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
or like how do
what's the
we-
best strategy? I mean,
how do we
train got
best manage-
people out by train. I mean,
Right.
there's-
Yeah,
That
we
doesn't
don't,
work for one person.
Right, so then I'm just saying at some point you're growing past what is safe.
Yeah, right.
For the allowable infrastructure, if you truly are limited by it.
Is there also a portion of this process that interviews or speaks to like the first responders of the city?
we have a community conversation with the fire department and the
Fire and police,
yeah. Speaking of, so let's transition. Do we feel like we have threats?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add? No? Thank you so much, Renee, for doing that.
Thank you.
Oh, we did. We
Yeah.
used backwards, but I was gonna say, we did the SWAT.
Yeah, and we'll
This
just.
is toes.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I've seen a survey go around about like climate. I'll find it. But they're like asking local applicants to fill out surveys regarding. I don't know if I was.
Climate and equitable communities. Okay, yeah. So, while you do that, so let's just move on to next steps and as to what we're doing next. A couple of things, actually, let's start with the bottom bullet. So our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 20th. We all hope you can make it. What we're hoping to do at that meeting is we're gonna give you kind of a download on all of the community conversations we hosted, what people are saying in the survey, so just kind of give you a flavor of all of the outreach and what we've heard. I would also love to come back to you in July with like kind of the beginning stages of us reading through that feedback and starting to like pull out what are the like main ideas that people are expressing. And then the hope there is to have you guys start like working together to like create the narrative of the vision statement. Whether we actually develop the entire vision or we talk about like what are the like thematic areas we want to make sure we cover, or the like key things we want to make sure we're saying in the vision statement based on all of this feedback that we're going to present to you. So that's going to be the purpose of that July meeting. That'll be after the Sandy Mountain Festival, that'll be after a bunch of key conversations, so there's a lot to report back to on that. So hope you guys can all make it. In person is always really nice to be able to chat like this, but of course the virtual option is always available. So leading up to that, we have a ton of community conversations and also events coming up. And I recognize that it's kind of hard to, you know, if you're not necessarily connected with things to like host a community conversation on your own. But if you do have a group or that you meet at the church or a neighborhood group that you meet with regularly and you want to host a conversation, you just have to go and do it and then just give us the notes and let us know what it is essentially. So that option is still available. We do have a Google spreadsheet where we're tracking the groups we want to talk to, and then if we contacted them, and then what time we're gonna, you know, when we're able to meet with them. So go ahead and like, please, we very much encourage you all to host a community conversation if you can. If you would rather come and join one of us at a community conversation and listen in, help take notes, kind of similar to what Renee just did, we have a sign up sheet here. You can flip through, you don't have to sign up, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can just see what we have coming up and you're welcome to come join and just support in that way. And then in addition, if you don't want to do that, we also, as we mentioned, have a bunch of community events. We are going to be at the farmers market for the next couple of Fridays through May and June, right? It's Fridays, right? Through May and June primarily. We'll also probably have a table at the Sandy Mountain Festival. So if you maybe two people want to pair up and just like man the booth for a couple hours at the farmers market or you know, be at the Sandy Mountain Festival, we can essentially like help facilitate that. There's nothing really you have to do other than just be yourself and hand out swag and information about it. So we have 2 sign-up sheets going around. Don't have to sign up or anything, but if you want to put your name down, and then Kelly will just see kind of what we have and then coordinate with you guys if you need more information. So those are our 2 major announcements.
So do you have a list of the events that are gonna be on the sites?
Yeah. So we're at the farmers market on May 20th, June 10th, and July 8th. Mountain Festival for sure.
What day are we at the Mountain Festival?
I think we're gonna try to do both days.
And that's the 7th and the 8th, Thursday and Friday, or is it a Friday and
I
Saturday?
think it's a Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday.
And then a few community conversations coming up over the next couple of weeks that are on different days at different times. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person. So if you're interested in any of those.
Yeah, we have, you know, I'm gonna go to the Ant Farm Advisory Board in June. If someone wants to come with me there and help take notes. We're gonna be going to Planning Commission and hosting a community conversation with them in June as well. It's kind of nice to just have CAC members just be there with us and kind of help support this project, since we are really kind of leaning on you guys to help be the champions of this work. So yeah, plenty of opportunities really, and we're happy to help just facilitate that so it doesn't get too big of a lift.
And the farmer's market, if you can't stay the whole time, that's okay. The EZF that we have does take 2 people to put up, so if I could have some help. Even if you can only do that, just let me put up the EZF. That's great.
Yeah.
What are the hours of the farmer's market normally?
So it goes from 3 to 7. We usually get there around 2 to start setting up, and then everything is packed up and we're done by 8.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But also, you know, you don't have to be there the entire time as well. Like maybe the booth we have up for like 3 hours or something.
Well, we do have to be there the whole time.
You do have to
It's
be
one
there
of the
the whole
rules, yeah.
There's not very many booths, so.
Yeah,
You want to stay.
because otherwise the thing starts happening, then one person starts taking
Yeah.
down, and then somebody else starts taking down.
Got it, yeah.
I'm trying to
That's one of the things, the opportunities.
An opportunity.
Yes.
More
Yeah.
farmers market.
Yes, yes, that's great.
Actual farmers would be great. I love soap, but there's enough soap.
And then all the-
I mean, I always get bread.
Yeah, it's
because
good.
they have one,
Yeah, because they have farm.
The giant loaves. are
Yeah.
just so good.
That survey was the planning for climate change in Clackamas County survey.
Yeah.
Is that something that the city?
That would be Clackamas County, yeah.
Sam Butler is on
Yes,
the version of that, and I'm on the also ran.
I got it through Sam. And I was like, I don't know if there's anything to do with that, but I was trying to get something to go that.
Great, so that's going around, but I think other than that.
Take more food and cookies.
Food. Thank you.
You're welcome to take your notebook
Thank
with
you
you or leave
everyone,
it
who's
here.
on the line, appreciate it.
The high school student.
Yeah, I was thinking, so I'm gonna be doing a community conversation with the leadership group, and it's Monday morning at 8:30.
This upcoming Monday?
Yes.